When a transversal, like this one, crosses two other lines, lots of different angles get made. You can see all the different angles, they're numbered here, okay? So remember, this line is the transversal, right? And it can cross parallel lines like this. We know they're parallel because of these parallel line indicators. Or we can have a transversal that crosses lines that are not parallel. Okay? You can see that line P is not parallel with line Q. If they were to keep going, eventually they would touch or cross. And remember, parallel lines never intersect or cross, okay? So these lines are not parallel. These lines are. A transversal is just a line that crosses any two other lines, okay? Now, let's talk about corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are angles in matching corners. So these are two different intersections here, two different places where the transversal crosses. So when it crosses this first line down here, it makes an angle on this corner. And when it crosses this next line, the corresponding angle is that same corner on the other intersection. Okay? Now, if we're looking at these pictures, let's look at angle 7 and angle 3. That's like our picture here. And here's angle 7 and angle 3 on the parallel lines. So we know that angle 7 and angle 3 make corresponding angles. But if the lines are parallel, those angles are the same measure, they're equal, or we say congruent, okay? But only if the lines are parallel. Only if the lines are parallel, the angles are congruent. So here 7 and 3, because the lines are not parallel, 7 and 3 are not congruent. But here, 7 and 3 are because the lines are parallel. Okay? Now, rewind this video and watch it again if you're confused, because that's a very important idea. Okay? Corresponding angles. Alternate interior angles, when we say alternate, we mean on different sides of the transversal, and I'm going to use that shorthand for transversal. And interior, we mean inside the lines. Okay? So here we're inside the two lines and on alternate sides of the transversal. Now, once again, if the lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent or equal. But if the lines are not parallel, then they are not equal or congruent. So let's go find an example from the picture. So if you notice angle 4 here and angle 6, they're on opposite sides of our transversal, but they're both inside or in between these two parallel lines. You'll see 4 and 6, they're on opposite sides of the transversal, but both in between the two lines that are not parallel. But only 4 and 6 on the parallel lines are congruent. Alternate exterior angles, well, it's the same. Alternate still means on different sides of the transversal. Exterior means they're on the outside of those lines, right? If the lines are parallel, they are congruent or equal. And on the picture up here, remember when they're alternate, they are on different sides of that transversal, but they are on the outside of the two lines it crosses. So 1 and 7 are alternate exterior angles, but 2 and 8 are as well. Okay? So these are alternate because they're on different sides of the transversal. Exterior angles. Exterior meaning they're on the outside of the two lines it crosses. So we'll say angle 2 and angle 8 are alternate exterior angles. And when we're talking about those being on parallel lines, they are congruent or equal. What about up here if we're talking about 2 and 8 on these lines that are not parallel? If the lines are not parallel, they're not congruent or not equal. The last one we'll do in this section is same side interior angles. Same side of the transversal. Interior meaning inside the two lines it crosses. Sorry guys, I got my E there. So inside the two lines that transversal crosses. A pair of angles on one side of the transversal and between the parallel lines. So if we're talking about same side interior angles, there they are. Here's something important about same side interior angles. Unlike the other angles we're talking about, if the lines are parallel, those two angles are supplementary, meaning they add up to 180 degrees. They're not equal or congruent, but they do add up to 180 degrees. Well, let's look at an example from our picture. We're going to go over here on our not parallel lines. We want the same side of the transversal and in between the two lines. So let's look at 4 and 5. 4 and 5, angle 4 and angle 5 are both same side interior angles. And only if the lines are parallel, they add up to 180. If the lines are not parallel, they still are same side interior, but they do not add up to 180 degrees. Please watch this video again if these are new ideas. It will help to go over it 2 or 3 times if you need to. All right, thanks guys.